So I want to start this talk with something very important for you to know in today's situation. My dog Bonbon eats cooked carrots. Did you get that? Let me say it again. My dog Bonbon eats cooked carrots. No, of course, she didn't always eat them. I mean, most dogs don't, right? And she didn't either before that day. That day when she was about 2, maybe 3 years old. I don't remember exactly, but she found a slice of cooked carrot on the floor. I must have dropped it between the pan and the plate, right? But distracted as I often am, I hadn't noticed until she stumbled up to it, sniffing it. She kept sniffing for several unusual moments, trying to figure out maybe why she was so interested in something she had never been interested in before. She was deeply uncertain. Was it good or bad to eat? Now, I was curious, too, to see what would happen. If there is a good-to-eat box in her mind, and there is, it didn't seem to belong there, that carrot. And yet, she had seen me eating similar cooked carrots just a few moments before, and whatever I ate was normally worth begging for. So, this strange orange thing on the floor must be good to eat. After several dubious sniffs, she decided to go for it, and she liked it. I fed her another, and she ate that one. And now, years later, I can say, as I did beginning of this whole talk, my dog, Bonbon, eats cooked carrots. So there's 2 points here I want to leave you with from this story, right? The first one is, yes, curiosity killed the cooked carrot. The other point I'll get to in a minute. Before we do that, I'd like you to make a list, quickly. If you don't have a piece of paper, do it in your head or grab what is near you. Use your phone. Please make a list of things you love to eat. Maybe 5 things. And then next to it, make another list of 5 things you really hate to eat. Things that, you would rather go hungry and starve than eat. 5 things you love, 5 things you hate. Now another list of 3 things you really love about life that distinguish you as a person. Things you love that maybe other people don't, right? And 3 other things that you really get annoyed by. Pet peeves, types of people that you don't like, stuff like that. You have those lists? And you can continue adding to them if you like, but you got a couple things down there, it's good enough. Now, I want to call your attention to the old saying that there's only 2 things certain in life, death and taxes. So, it's not a great time to be talking about death right now, right? Certainly not with business contacts, staff, colleagues, clients, things like that. And look, no time is a good time to talk about taxes. Not with me, especially. But I want you to notice that there is actually one other thing that is certain in life. And that thing is actually far more certain than either death or taxes. If you think you know what it is, write that down. So the answer is uncertainty. The only thing in life that is really truly certain is uncertainty. In fact, uncertainty is more certain than any other thing you can think of, and I'll prove it to you right now. Sitting where you are, standing, you cannot be certain, completely certain of anything in your future. Except one thing, which is that you are not certain of anything in your future. So uncertainty is the only certain thing. Completely, inarguably, irrevocably certain that uncertainty exists. It's more uncertain than taxes because some people don't pay their taxes. It's more uncertain than death because you don't know when you're going to die. And you know that you don't know that. But certainty, you don't have that. Uncertainty you have. And yet we live in an illusion, some kind of mirage that we are able to magically control uncertainty by making plans. Right? That somehow, by putting the plans in place, makes life more certain. That making agreements with others makes our relationships more certain. That having a job or a contract or a client makes our business more certain. But it's not true. It's impossible to make life more certain than it is. Life is uncertain. It's simply the basic state of it, right? And there's nothing to be upset about. Actually, life being uncertain is the greatest thing there is, the greatest opportunity there is. Here's why. right? Well, I'll describe it in a few steps. So the first thing you need to realize is that the fact of saying that certainty is an illusion means that really it's a concept created by human beings. It's a psychic concept. It's a theory, right? My dog, Bonbon, considering the carrot. We think maybe she's uncertain whether to eat it or not, but that uncertainty is not with her, right? It's here with me. I project my concept of uncertainty on her. She's just sniffing and considering the carrot. Now, granted that none of us know what animals think, and I really do hope that someday I do get to know what dogs think. It's one of those things I'd like. It's on my list of things that define me. Right? But the notion of certainty requires conscious thought. So as far as we know, the kind of idea of certainty versus uncertainty comparison is not something that our dog necessarily is able to conceive of, but what's more important is that you are. And, it's definitely not something tangible, right? Not like a tree or like a dog or like you. Certainty and uncertainty are ideas. And you know that there's not 100% certainty ever, right? And there's never 100% uncertainty. You can't even define what that would mean. So we deal with it on a sliding scale, right? And that sliding scale is called risk. And when we deal with risk in business, we deal with it much more logically than the concept of uncertainty, right? Uncertainty causes us a lot of pain or upset or emotional trauma, emotional concern. But risk in business is just a thing. It's a statistic, right? And if you go and slash your budget or fire people or cancel, events or deals that are far into the future based on the current COVID situation, then, you make that decision based on risk. You want to reduce the risk, mitigate the risk. So you're trying to increase the sense that you have managed the risk, right? Managing risk is a statistic. Risk is not something you think, in this sense, is real. It's an idea, right? Even at the most extreme measure of this, a gambler in a casino. A gambler in a casino knows that they're playing under risk. They know that there are odds. They know that the odds are either for them or against them at any given moment, but unless they're completely out of their minds, as some gamblers can be, but we're talking about a logical or possibly professional gambler, they know that no matter what the odds of winning, there is also a chance they will lose. And even if they've got, trip kings and someone drops a 2 on the river to beat them in a full house, 2s over 3s, although they might be upset and might be sad, they will not say that it was something that shouldn't have happened. It could happen. Right? Since this pandemic started, what has most freaked people out is not the danger of dying, in most cases, not the massive job losses, not the profits collapsing, not the attacks on personal freedom that some people are getting upset about now in terms of the lockdowns, not the reduction of human contact. What's really upset people the most, although all of this has made an impact, is the sense of abrupt and unexpected uncertainty. Uncertainty about the future. And people want to talk about coping or surviving through or dealing with uncertainty, but the thing that people are missing, and this is the most important part of this entire conversation, is that nothing now is more uncertain than it ever is. There is nothing now that is more uncertain than it ever is. The challenge is that uncertainty ultimately is a perception, it's a choice. And people are deciding to embrace the fear of uncertainty instead of embracing the reality of it. The fact is, uncertainty is no more real, tangible, than the waves of, fake water that you see in a mirage in the desert. And yet people are afraid of it. And here's the problem with that. Studies have shown repeatedly that worrying about losing your job is more stressful than actually losing your job. Studies have shown that it's easier to recover from a physical car crash than from something that you see as a major life failure. Studies have shown that women who are being tested for cancer in their breasts are more stressed out during the time between their test and the result of their test than after they're told that they do have breast cancer. Think about that. They are more stressed while waiting for the result than after they've been told that they have cancer. You are more likely to receive a shock, like an electric shock, with less pain if I tell you it's coming than if I tell you it might be coming, say 50-50. The minute I make it uncertain, you begin to actually stress more. So the bottom line problem we're facing, right, is that only a very small percentage of what we do every day, what we say and what we achieve, is based on conscious thought. Around 95% of what we do every day is unconscious. It's patterns, it's habits, right? So when we look at what this question about uncertainty, where that really impacts us is not in the conscious, but in the unconscious, that we're getting messages from the conscious mind telling us that there is something to fear. So I'm going to give you the secret to life now. I'm going to give you the secret to life, and hopefully this will help. Okay, ready? You're born, you die, and in between, you're uncertain. And that's all there is, right? There is nothing more to life that's really worth worrying about. So here's the problem we have. The problem is that you have come to a point in your life where you are certain in your mind about so many things, right? That list we made earlier of the foods you like and don't like, the things you like in life and don't like, that is part of what defines you. You weren't born with that, right? When you were born, you weren't born loving oysters. Wasn't the way it was, or hating certain foods. When you were born, in fact, there was no question you had in your mind about is this certain or uncertain. You just lived in tune with life. You cried when you were hungry. You cried when you were tired. You cried when you made a poo on yourself. You were reaching out, communicating, trying to tell somebody that it was not comfortable. But you weren't trying to think what would happen if. In fact, if you took your brain now and you put it back in your own body when you were a little kid, you would never learn to walk. Can you see that? You would fall down 2 or 3 or 4 times, and pretty quickly you would say, yeah, this really isn't for me. I'm not good at this. I don't like this. You know, you wouldn't actually just keep going. Little kids that are learning to walk, they just do it. They do not, right? They do not stress about it. They don't compare whether it's working or not working. They just get up and do it again and try again. It's only a few years later when exhausted parents, start to tell us, it's that way because I said so. It's only when teachers start to tell us, it's that way because the book says so. It's only when other kids our age start to tell us, it's that way because our parents and teachers in books, they said so, right? And you start to develop a personality, and that personality is something you become certain about. In fact, is there anything in the world you're more certain about than some of the things that define you? The people you like and don't like in the world, the kinds of people you like and don't like in the world, the kind of skills you have, the kind of jobs you like to do, right? You like to compare things. Human beings are machines of comparison. What's good, what's bad, what's positive, what's negative, what's going to work, what's not going to work, what do I like, what do I not like, what is certain and what is uncertain. All of those things are judgments. All of those things are choices. It's been 70 years already since people like Alan Watts and then later Alvin Toffler and so many other futurists and so many other thinkers said the world is changing so fast we can't keep up with it. It is becoming more and more uncertain. And yet nothing changed until COVID came, and then everything changed. Instantly. Things that we weren't willing to do suddenly became easy. See, the thing is, uncertainty is both good and bad, depending how you respond to it. If you deal with it as a bad, dangerous thing, your body will deal with it as a dangerous thing. You will be able to have less selection of ideas and thoughts. You will become anxious, right? You will get stuck in a loop of worrying. And worrying doesn't achieve anything. We're going to look at that in a second too. If you embrace uncertainty, you'll quickly find out that uncertainty brings you lots of ideas. When you know that anything is possible, even for yourself. You begin to see that ideas come up that maybe you would have never thought of. Uncertainty creates the ability to absorb more information, to build resilience, and to get into a growth mindset. When you accept that life is uncertain and that even you are simply a composition that you made of yourself, and that you don't have to be certain about either, right? Uncertainty disrupts the habitual. It creates conflict on the one hand. On the other hand, it creates a sense of freedom, right? So the best way to deal with uncertainty is to accept it, befriend it, and then create from there. Eckhart Tolle said, when you get comfortable with uncertainty, you will be amazed at the infinite possibilities that open up in your life. And Peter Drucker said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And it's really true, right? Instead of trying to decide whether the future is going to work or not, trying to figure out the certainty of the future, what if you just create the future that you want and live into that future? Because the worry response doesn't really help. In fact, it creates a loop of more worry, right? It's been tested that a worried mind is harder to solve problems with. It's difficult to work effectively with a worried mind. It damages your confidence. All it does is make more of itself like a virus, right? Now, you might think a good way to get out of uncertainty is to seek more information. However, it can be dangerous because studies have shown repeatedly that actually, too much information turns into more uncertainty. So often, if you get a little information, it might help. But when you look for too much information, it causes you to become more and more uncertain. And the thing is with COVID, all the information we get doesn't seem to help. One day, there's a vaccine on the way. The next day, they find that it's mutating and they're not sure if there's going to be a vaccine. I'm not going to get into a lot of COVID conversation, but the bottom line is the information available is not reliable. It's not helpful. Right? If you try to predict when the lockdowns will end, when the social distancing will end, when we can have large meetings again, when can you fly on a plane, none of these things are predictable. They are uncertain. So rather than trying to predict them and getting away, frustrated and confused, here's what you can actually do. Focus on the present. Right? Do the things you want to do now, what you can do now, things you need to get done. Disregard the sense of worry because you can't worry when you're fully present. And it might help you to take on a mindfulness practice, a meditation or something that way. Right? If you really want to worry, make a special time and place to do it. Literally, a chair in the corner of your dining room that you don't normally sit in to work. Or, a corner of your garden that you can sit in the lotus position and worry for 20 minutes at the same time every day. That's a good thing to do, right? But most important thing you can do is use the uncertainty to vault your success forward, to vault your creative thinking forward. And the first thing to do is clean out your mind, right? So in addition to what I've said, here's a basic thing to do. Accept, observe, let go. Let's accept, observe, let go. Meaning, accept that things are uncertain. Accept that you don't know the answers. Right? Then be quiet and observe what's really going on. What's actually happening. Not your worry, but what's really happening around you and in you. And finally, let go. You will make judgments. Let them go. You'll make more. Let those go again. See where that leads you. Because the point of this is to free your mind from its own tyranny. And then, once you free, you're free to act. So, what's the action you should take on first? First thing to do is create a sense of safety. Right? The sense of safety you are used to has fallen away for a lot of people. And, you might have lost your office or temporarily not be able to go to it. Right? You might have lost the ability to meet physically with your team. So, you need to recreate that if you haven't. A clear sense of physical space and time that's safe. The best way to do that is usually to make it at the same time and the same space. So even if your space is a Zoom room, keep the same Zoom room. Don't change between different people in the team. Do it at the same time every day. And even if it's just 10 minutes a day, that you all meet together for your team. It'd be great to do. It really will help you create a sense of safety. Another thing to do is communication is key right now. So don't just have a meeting. Let people really express what's going on for them. Let them express their fears. Show them this video so they can see that people, can cope with this idea of uncertainty. And or share with them your own interpretation of what you've gained from this session. Uncertainty has been seen in many studies as the base of all fear. So all fear that exists is all based on the bottom line fear of not knowing, of not being safe. To create a culture in your company going forward of creativity, create a sense of communication and safety. There was a study done by MIT, Carnegie Mellon, and Union College. And in this study, not too long ago, they divided participants into groups. And they tested the groups to see which groups had the most creative ideas. What they found universally was that the groups with the most creative ideas were, what do you think? No, they were not the groups with the smartest people. Right? They were the groups that had the most equality, the most compromise, collaboration, the most equal amount of communication among all people. The teams that were successful in all different types of activities. And the teams that were unsuccessful in all different types of activities. So it had nothing to do with the kind of activities that teams were given. What mattered was the composition of the teams. Teams that came from the second category were the most creative teams consistently. Teams that communicated equally. Teams that felt safe to share and communicate among each other. Those teams didn't follow the rules. They didn't follow the agendas that they had in meetings. They allowed people to speak off the cuff. They allowed everybody to have a chance to participate. Those teams did the best. The teams that had the greatest sense of psychological safety for everybody on the team. So my point here is, when you're dealing with this notion of uncertainty, the best thing you can do for yourself and your team is to let people feel safe in being uncertain. Let uncertainty not be something that causes you to feel worried or upset or scared, but rather take a step into the place where uncertainty is actually a thing that you appreciate, embrace, and love. Both uncertainty about things around you and also certainty about things inside of you. It's okay to let yourself, in fact, extremely useful, to let yourself be willing to try things you don't think you're good at, you don't think you like. Be able to take baby steps, literally, the same way a baby would, without judgment, without fear, and without worrying about whether you can do it or not. The best thing you can do for your team is to give them safety inside of uncertainty right now. The bottom line is this: it's better to take action than to do nothing, even if that action turns out to be a mistake. Because there's a very basic fact of reality, which is that one action leads to, that's right, another action. One action leads to another action. Whereas no action leads to more no action. It's better to do something because it leads to another something. When you do nothing, it leads to another nothing. So the way to get creativity into yourself and into your organization is to deal with uncertainty as a given and as a blessing. To maximize your own internal comfort with uncertainty, both as an individual and as an organization. And to actively seek out, to be uncertain about things where you used to be certain. That is the first step in creating an organization that's driven by creative thinking. My invitation to you: embrace uncertainty, love it, enjoy it, know that it's the source of creative thinking. Create safety around that with your team and start from there. These are my contact details. Please get in touch. Please feel free to chat more with me about these kind of ideas or anything around creativity and innovation. It's been really fun to be here with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Have a great day.